How many poems per month does an average family of 4 need to make ends meet? Should a poem contain everything that is found in the newspaper or everything that is not found in the newspaper? Which words have never ever appeared in a poem? If one places a book of poems on the scales and it shows 300 grams, does that indicate the weight of the paper or that of the poems? What is the opposite of a poem? Do poems tend to be loud or to be quiet? How many old poems fit in a new one? And how many new poems fit in an old one? What is the difference between a poem with a title and a poem without a title, discounting the fact that one has a title and the other has none? Where does one find the best before date on a poem? Is it possible to extend the durability of a poem before its time runs out? Can poems bring the dead back to life? Does a poem have more or fewer lives than a cat? And how many lives does a poem about cats have? Can one get oneself vaccinated against poems? What in the world will poems lead us to? What possibilities are there to completely forget a poem that one had to learn by heart? How can poems defend themselves against being caged into anthologies? What requirements does a poem have to meet in order to become a favorite poem? Can poems about flowers multiply by self-pollination, or do they always need a poem about bees? Does a love poem have to be good in bed? Which love poems are better? The pre-coital ones or the post-coital ones? Are love poems bound to one person, or are they transferable? When, at the very latest, must a short poem stop if it doesn't want to risk being mistaken for a long poem? Can poems be produced artificially? How many poems can one read, at most, if one still has to drive? How can poems be prevented? Can a poem sense it if it's brushed by the mantle of literary history? Should poems be provided with the footnote, please delete what does not apply? May poems refuse to give evidence? Should one throw poems to the drowning? What do memorable poems remember? Do political poems represent the interests of apolitical poems? How good must a poem be in order to be forbidden? Do poems evaporate if one leaves the book lying open for too long? Is Earth the only planet where poems are to be found? Should poems be deployed in areas of crisis? Has the supply of poems for the population been secured? In case of emergency, are there any reserves of poems? And for how long would they last? How long can a human being survive without poems? Thank you very much.